Born the illegitimate son of Sith Lord Dromund, ruler of the planet Medriaas, Tenebrae was raised by his poor farmer mother and her husband on a remote northern continent. A unique Sith pureblood from birth, Tenebrae had deep black eyes and never cried nor showed emotion. Even as a baby, forever cloaked in an aura so menacing, animals and other children stayed away. Unaware of his wife's infidelity, the stepfather raised Tenebrae as his own until the age of 6, when the boy displayed signs of force sensitivity. Confronting his wife, she admitted to an affair with Lord Dromund, enraging her husband who physically attacked her, while Tenebrae consumed the dark side energy emitted, which then burst forth in a torrent of power that snapped the man's neck. Turning to his mother, he assigned a far worse fate, letting her die only after months of excruciating torture, a punishment for the betrayal of their family. Over the next 4 years, the young Sith grew his abilities and gathered a loyal following, bringing neighboring villages and towns under his rule, while holding public executions for those who did not accept his authority, feeding off their life energy as they died. At first, Lord Dromund paid no mind to rumors of an upstart Sith Lord causing trouble in a remote and insignificant territory, but by the age of 10, Tenebrae held a domain so large he could no longer be ignored. Meeting in person, Tenebrae revealed he was Lord Dromund's son before launching a mental attack, so devastating the ruler went mad before dying. Although Lord Dromund already had a legitimate son and heir, Lord Dromund II feared the wrath of this astonishingly powerful child, and so fled with his followers to settle on Rekiad, where he ruled until his death. Back on Medriaas, Tenebrae spent the next 3 years completing his conquest of the planet, and so by the age of 13, in 5100 BBY, was an unofficial ruling Sith Lord. In order to acquire the title, legitimize his reign, and upgrade his status within the Old Sith Empire, Tenebrae traveled to the capital of Zyos, where he was presented to Emperor Marka Ragnos, one of the greatest Dark Lords in history, presiding over a golden age of power and prosperity. Though the boy before him was young, the Emperor immediately sensed his strength and potential, giving his blessing for Tenebrae to become Sith Lord Vitiate, undisputed ruler of Medriaas, which was later renamed Nathema. Remaining in relative isolation for the next century, Vitiate spent his days studying the dark side and imparting his knowledge upon students and followers, earning his reputation as a scholar who taught how to restrain emotions and use inner rage as fuel for their force powers. Yet few within greater Sith political circles paid much attention to Vitiate, as he ruled the world on the edge of their space and stayed out of the wars and conflicts of other Sith. When Marka Ragnos died in 5000 BBY, Vitiate remained neutral in the War of Succession that followed, between the two most prominent lords of the Empire, Ludo Kresh and Naga Sadow. Even after Sadow's victory, Vitiate remained apart from the others, refusing to join in the Great Hyperspace War they waged against the Jedi and Republic. Vindicated in his decision, they soon learned the Sith fleet was defeated, and the Emperor fled into exile, with enemy ships headed into their space to destroy all remnants of the Old Sith Empire. Yet in the wake of this tragedy for their people, Vitiate found the perfect opportunity for personal advancement. Putting his plan into motion, the Lord of Nathema spent much of 4999 BBY sending out a series of broadcasts designed to stoke fear within the now largely undefended Sith Empire by warning of the impending Republic invasion. When the Jedi finally arrived and started purging Imperial worlds of Sith influence, Vitiate once again broadcast a message, but this time it was an invitation for all remaining Sith Lords to gather on Nathema, where he would lead them in a powerful ritual to create the ultimate dark side weapon for use against their enemies. Having gained credibility from his accurate warnings of invasion, roughly 8,000 Sith Lords responded to his call. While they gathered together, Vitiate had a team of his best researchers and explorers locating a route to Dromund Kaas, an ancient Sith world lost for centuries, which meant it was entirely unknown to the Republic. When they finally reached this long-lost planet, Vitiate was ready to begin the next part of his plan, and so instructed the gathered Sith Lords to begin the ritual. Adding his strength to the others, the Lord of Nathema revealed the true nature of his scheme, as every living thing on the planet froze in place while their life force was drained over the next 10 days. When it was over, every living thing on the planet was dead, including the 8,000 participating Sith Lords, with all of their collective energy transferred into Vitiate, making him an immortal being with nearly godlike powers. Although the Sith respected strength and cared little for how it was attained, even if it came at the cost of entire worlds and peoples, draining a planet of its force energy would be considered an obscene abomination and heresy by nearly any force user, as they too would feel the pain of this loss. Understanding the severity of his crime, Vitiate forbid travel to his homeworld and hid its location, blaming its destruction on the Jedi and Republic. Easily the strongest Sith Lord alive, and possibly the most powerful in history, he was now Darth Vitiate, Dark Lord of the Old Sith Empire, to be known more commonly as the Immortal Sith Emperor. Traveling to the ancient capital of Korriban, he gathered whatever Sith Lords and servants remained, taking them aboard ships headed into the unknown regions, purposely forcing them to undertake an unnecessarily long 20-year voyage in order to ensure they were entirely dependent on their leader for survival. When he felt the time was right, Vitiate brought them to Dromund Kaas and established the Reconstituted Sith Empire, promising to one day take vengeance against the Jedi and Republic. Revered as a god, the Emperor spent most of his time in isolation, leaving administrative duties to the Dark Council, 12 powerful Dark Lords, each responsible for a different sector of Sith society, including the sphere of ancient knowledge, biotic science, defense of the Empire, expansion and diplomacy, imperial intelligence, laws and justice, military offense, military strategy, mysteries, production and logistics, Sith philosophy and technology. In addition to the Dark Council, he formed the Hand, a secret society of 12 carefully selected servants that would be rewarded with immortality and share in the Emperor's powers, in exchange for serving as vessels from which he might draw energy when necessary to sustain his powers and avoid bouts of exhaustion or weakness. Among the many projects they undertook to re-establish their empire, they restored and expanded an ancient dark temple, constructed an orbital space station, built a Sith sanctum within the Imperial Citadel to serve as headquarters for the Sith Order, and founded numerous academies from which the Emperor chose the best candidates to serve in his Imperial Guard, ensuring their absolute loyalty by binding them to his will. Though the Dark Temple was originally meant as a tomb for his enemies, the Emperor performed a ritual to consume the Force energy of all those within, creating a dark side nexus so powerful it caused perpetual dark clouds, rain, and lightning storms in the skies above Dromund Kaas. Ruling over the reconstituted Sith Empire from his capital of Dromund Kaas, the Emperor and Dark Lord Vitiate allowed his government and servants to administer the realm while he stayed in the background, focusing on the higher pursuits of the dark side and Force. Though most greatly feared the Emperor, seeing him as a terrifying, all-powerful god, dissent and betrayal were inevitable facets of Sith philosophy, causing some few to peek beyond the veil of his shadowy persona and brave the dangers of his immense power to attempt rebellion and overthrow this powerful leader. In 4606 BBY, a subtle but dangerous threat to his power emerged when the Sith Keleth-Ur started exploring the light side, developing and preaching a philosophy which embraced peace for long-term stability over the powerful short-term strength of passion and wild emotions. Becoming a light Sith, his ideas ventured toward those of the ancient Jedi, and so Keleth-Ur was killed before his teachings could spread, with his remains sealed away in the Dark Temple. Before it was locked down and abandoned, this temple not only served as a home for the Emperor's deceased enemies, but also stored dangerous items and artifacts like the Ravager, a torture device so powerful it could infiltrate the mind of great Sith Lords like the Dark Counselors. Among the most prominent dark-side threats to the Emperor's rule, there was the rebellion of Vodal Kresh, a descendant of the legendary Sith Lord Ludo Kresh, who challenged Naga Sadow for leadership of the Empire before their defeat in the Great Hyperspace War. Failing to overthrow the Emperor, Vodal fled to the planet Athis, where he spent the rest of his life raising an army of slaves. The Kresh bloodline then continued their campaign of rebellion when Exal Kresh, a female descendant of Ludo Kresh, was selected as the apprentice of the Emperor and trained as a powerful Sith Lord. Though she was content in her position, her master planned to make her the first of his children, individuals that would surrender their physical bodies to the Emperor's will. Unwilling to be a mindless slave puppet, Exal Kresh rebelled and fed information to her master's enemies in the Great Galactic War until she was finally killed while attempting to sabotage the Sith Academy on Korriban. Of the Empire's many failed rebellions, one of the most infamous came when the Dark Counselor Darth Locus rallied support from all 11 colleagues who agreed to face their enemy together. However, the Emperor easily killed 11 of the 12, leaving only their leader to be thoroughly tortured before her death. Though some did attempt to overthrow the Emperor, other ambitious Sith focused on more achievable goals, like in the year 4043 BBY, when the Dark Counselors, Darth Kalar and Darth Victin declared a Kageth, a ritual duel to the death in which the winner claimed the possessions and prominence of the defeated. However, one of the only rules for the Kageth declared the fight must not harm the Empire. This rule was broken when the duel of Kalar and Victon accidentally destroyed the Imperial Citadel, causing the rest of the Dark Council to combine their powers and eliminate both the Sith Lords. Placing Darth Nostrum in charge of the project, a new citadel was built to the Emperor's exact specifications. When it was complete, the Emperor tested its defensive labyrinth by trapping Nostrum in the building's depths, where he died, unable to find the exit. Despite the numerous attempts to end his reign, the vast majority of people accepted the Emperor's right to rule as the strongest Force user alive, including other powerful Sith Lords like Raptus, Bestia, Brontus, Calpheus, Styrak, and Tyrants, who worked together and developed a variation of battle meditation, allowing them to induce fear among entire armies. Presenting their findings to the Emperor, he was pleased and gave them each the title Dreadmaster, allowing them to serve as advisors and generals of the Empire. Haunted by memories of the Great Hyperspace War, many of those individuals who fled the original Sith Empire held great hatred for the Jedi and Old Republic that defeated them. Yet after 1,000 years under the rule of a seemingly all-powerful emperor, knowledge of these ancient events was lost, with newer generations entirely unaware of these former adversaries. But Vitiate never forgot, and from the beginning of his reign, planned to one day take vengeance upon their light side enemies. Although the ultimate truth behind the Emperor's motivations were not entirely understood, his goals seemed to evolve over time, becoming less attached to traditional light versus dark side teachings, exploring larger ideas and possibilities. Fundamentally, the Emperor seemed to have three main objectives which framed every action he took throughout his life. First and foremost, he sought immortality, not because of some philosophical need to master life and death, but rather because of a primal and visceral fear of dying. Secondly, he sought to become and remain the most powerful being in existence, with complete mastery over the Force and creatures of the galaxy. His final goal was far less ambitious and extreme than the others, yet went on to give him the most difficulty, as he had an unyielding desire for entertainment, a need to keep himself active, seeking moments of pleasure and fulfillment to help pass the endless years of his life. Through the ritual on Nathema, Vitiate came close to achieving his first two goals, becoming seemingly immortal and immensely powerful. However, there are those who believe the energy absorbed by the Emperor did not provide true immortality, and instead simply extended his life by centuries or millennia, granting large but finite levels of power, which is why he occasionally had to renew his strength by consuming other worlds. As a result of this need, some came to believe the ultimate goal of the Emperor was to consume all Force energy in the galaxy, granting him true immortality and untold powers, after which he might venture into other galaxies and continue his conquest. However, there are others who believe Vitiate instead planned to consume individual planets only when necessary, while at the same time ruling over the rest of the galaxy as an all-powerful God Emperor. With these larger goals in mind, Vitiate spent the many centuries of his reign building up the Sith Empire so they might conquer the Old Republic, and when he felt ready in 3978 BBY, began the early stages of the invasion by sending an emissary to contact Mandalore the Ultimate, leader of the Mandalorian people who prized battle above all else. Explaining that the emissary's master had a vision of Mandalorian victory over the Republic, the Sith agent used the Force to manipulate the Mandalore's mind, convincing him to wage war against this galactic superpower. Although the Emperor knew they had little chance of success, he used the Mandalorian Wars to test Republic defenses, watching from afar and learning all he could about their capabilities and tactics. Invaded by a powerful enemy, the brave and highly skilled Jedi heroes Revan and Malak emerged to lead Republic defenses, growing ever more ruthless throughout the conflict, leading them away from the light side and toward the dark. When the masterful and brilliant warrior Revan at last defeated and struck down Mandalore the Ultimate, the dying leader spoke of what started the war, revealing the involvement of a larger, greater power manipulating events from the shadows. Investigating this larger danger alongside his best friend Malak, Revan eventually learned about the hidden Sith Empire, an all-powerful emperor seeking to conquer the galaxy. Thought of as war criminals by the Jedi Order who disagreed with how they waged the Mandalorian Wars, Revan and Malak chose not to inform the High Council about what they learned, instead deciding to end the threat themselves by traveling to the unknown regions in search of Dromund Kaas. After investigating the hidden Sith Empire and discovering how Emperor Vitiate consumed Nathema, the now dark side-leaning Jedi heroes Revan and Malak located the capital world of Dromund Kaas, where they recruited the Royal Guard Yari to help infiltrate the Imperial Citadel and assassinate their enemy. However, the Emperor was fully aware of their presence, and actually sent Yari to work as a double agent, so when Revan and Malak arrived in the throne room, their minds were quickly dominated and subdued. Sensing their potential, Vitiate enslaved the former Jedi to his will, granting them each ancient titles of great prestige, reborn as Darth Revan and Darth Malak of the Sith Order. Publicly, the Emperor announced they caught and executed 2 assassins, but in reality sent his new servants on a special quest to find the ancient and legendary Starforge, a massive automated manufacturing facility using force-infused technology powered by entire stars, able to produce an endless supply of ships and war materials. Having learned of this unique mechanical wonder which might serve as a valuable resource in the coming invasion of the Republic, Vitiate sent the Dark Lords to find and capture it in the name of the Empire. Dutifully obeying their master, Revan and Malak began their investigation, eventually journeying to Manon, Tatooine, and Korriban, where they collected the discarded pieces of ancient star maps made by the Recotans of the Infinite Empire, a highly advanced, force-sensitive dark side species who built many incredible wonders, including the Starforge. Following the star maps, Revan and Malak were led to the Recotan world Lehan, where they crash-landed on its surface. Unable to escape until they disabled the disruptor field surrounding the planet, the Sith Lords made deals with and betrayed both sides of a local conflict among the Recotan population, who were far removed from the glory days of the Infinite Empire, reduced to technologically primitive warring tribes. Succeeding in their deceptions, the Sith Lords gained access to the disruptor field controls in the Temple of the Ancients, allowing them to leave the planet and capture the Starforge orbiting above the nearby sun. Yet it was around this time something started to change within Revan and Malak, breaking free of the Emperor's will to claim the Starforge for themselves. A rare mistake in his calculations, Vitiate underestimated the inner strength and mental fortitude of the former Jedi, as time and distance from their master allowed them to unknowingly free themselves from their mental captivity. Left with altered, obscured, and vague recollections of their time in Imperial space, Revan and Malak concluded that a terrible threat to all life lurked in the unknown regions. Therefore, in order to once again save the galaxy, as they did in the Mandalorian Wars, they must personally take control of the Galactic Republic, thereby gaining the resources and manpower to properly defend against the inevitable invasion from the unknown regions. Though free of the Emperor's control, they retained his dark side influence, which when combined with their own dark side inclinations, meant they held no interest in returning to the weak and ineffectual Jedi Order, declaring themselves Master Darth Revan and Apprentice Darth Malak, Dark Lord rulers of a new Sith Empire, which would act without restraint or moral concern in the execution of their plan to save the galaxy. Many months earlier, when the former Jedi originally entered Sith space on a quest to assassinate the Emperor, they left behind a fleet of ships, brimming with officers and warriors, still loyal to those that led them to victory in the Mandalorian Wars. Choosing loyalty to their commanders over the Republic or Jedi, they eagerly joined Revan's Sith Empire, becoming his main fleet and army, bolstered and reinforced by the ships and supplies of the Starforge. Capturing the ancient Sith homeworld of Korriban, they expanded their forces further by establishing an academy to train new generations of Sith Lords under their command. Eager to learn all he could about his greatest weapon, Revan investigated the Starforge, and so learned the disturbing truth that although it was an incredible resource of seemingly limitless potential, the dark side force energy imbued within the technology had the unforeseen effect of inducing negative emotions in those with long-term exposure to the facility. Wise as well as powerful, Revan understood the danger and so made sure he did not overuse the Starforge or obsess over its potential, using it as a tool for a specific purpose and nothing more. Sparking their first major disagreement as Sith Lords, Revan's apprentice Darth Malak believed they should spend more time studying and exploiting the facility. Nevertheless, Revan persisted in his decision, refusing to over-rely on the Starforge, instead using his vast knowledge of the Republic and incredible skill as a strategist to plan a long-term 20-year campaign designed to minimize destruction, preserving as much of the Republic as possible while also bringing it under his control in order to avoid squandering resources he'd need for the greater war yet to come. At last ready to begin, Revan launched the first Battle of Foros in 3959 BBY, successfully capturing a large portion of the enemy fleet. Since most saw no difference between the Force-wielding warriors doing battle across the galaxy, the conflict was known as the Jedi Civil War, seeing many Republic warriors cross over to the Sith, ever sympathetic to Revan, still remembered as a great hero. Among the many atrocities committed by the Sith Lords during the war, they bombed the civilian population of Telos IV, assassinated prominent political and military figures, killed the Achani General Usanis, captured, tortured, and corrupted Jedi to the dark side, and allied with the greedy Zerka Corporation. Though not everything went exactly to plan, Darth Revan's larger strategy was working, leaving the Republic on the defensive until faced with two unexpected threats that stifled his progress. The first came from within his own ranks, as the apprentice Darth Malak did not understand the need for long-term plans, believing his master weak and that he could conquer the Republic far faster. Malak then publicly challenged Revan's authority in 3957 BBY, resulting in a duel where the master struck down his apprentice, removing his jaw with a lightsaber. Malak survived, but was forced to wear a prosthesis for the rest of his life. The second threat to Revan's ultimate victory came from his enemies in the Jedi Order, who lured him into an Outer Rim trap where his vessel was boarded by a Jedi strike team. Undeterred by his many light-side opponents, Revan sent out a signal for assistance and prepared for battle. Darth Malak then arrived with his fleet just in time to intervene, but rather than save his master, he fired upon Revan's ship, hoping to destroy them all. Under fire, most of the Jedi were killed and Revan knocked unconscious, leaving only the Padawan, Bastila Shan, a specialist in battle meditation, who used her powers to save the Dark Lord's life, which under the stress of the situation created a special force bond between them. Escaping the ship, Bastila took Revan's unconscious body to Dantooine, where the Jedi Council healed his wounds and wiped his memory, giving him a second chance at life with a new identity as a Republic soldier. Placed under the command of Bastila Shan, Revan eventually regained his Force powers and was even readmitted to the Jedi Order, in the hopes his tremendous talents might help destroy the Sith Empire he created. Growing closer from their Force bond, Revan and Bastila assembled a loyal crew aboard the Ebon Hawk, embarking upon a legendary quest to save the galaxy as Knights of the Old Republic. Throughout the journey, Revan and his crew discovered the truth about his identity, but everyone learned to accept it, judging him not for the past, but for the brave, compassionate leader he was now. Meanwhile, Darth Malak, under the mistaken belief his master died, succeeded as ruler of the Sith, beginning his reign by disregarding the carefully planned 20-year strategy of Revan in favor of an aggressive, merciless campaign focused on destruction rather than conquest, fully embracing use of the Starforge. Eventually, Malak learned the truth about his old master, and as they neared a final confrontation, captured Bastila Shan, turning her to the dark side. Tracking them down, Revan defeated Bastila 3 times in single combat, before she realized the error of her ways and asked that he end her suffering. Revan refused to kill her, instead expressing his love and determination to save her. Though hesitant at first, Bastila ultimately returned to the light side and admitted her love for him, claiming she no longer feared those emotions. Moving on to the final battle, Revan faced off against his old apprentice and at long last struck him down before exchanging some final words, in which he apologized for leading Malak toward the dark side. With the Dark Lord dead, Starforge destroyed, Bastila redeemed, and remnants of Revan's Sith Empire left scattered and fighting for leadership, a great celebration was held on Lehon, where the entire Ebon Hawk crew were publicly recognized for their service in winning the Jedi Civil War, while Revan was awarded the Cross of Glory, earning his status as a living legend, having been both a warring Dark Lord of the Sith and Jedi Savior of the Republic twice over. Yet this was not the end of Revan's story, as even after all he suffered, the memory of a threat in the unknown regions remained, and so he knew victory was only temporary, and the galaxy was still in danger. Haunted by dreams of a dark presence in the unknown regions and a planet covered in storms, for 2 years after the Jedi Civil War, Revan attempted to settle into domestic life, moving into an apartment on Coruscant with his beloved wife Bastila Shan. But the dreams only intensified, until he felt no choice but to investigate the meaning of these vague, mysterious memories. His resolve only strengthened when his wife revealed she was pregnant, realizing he must stop or delay this galactic threat as long as possible, so their child might live a long life of peace. Remembering the final words of Mandalore the Ultimate, Revan reached out to his Mandalorian friend and ally, Canderous Ordo, and together journeyed to the planet Rekiad, where they searched for and found the Mask of Mandalore, as well as information connecting the looming Sith threat to the planet Nathema. Parting ways, Revan asked his friend Canderous to don the mask they found so he could unite and strengthen his people to one day fight in defense of the Republic. Reluctantly, Canderous agreed, becoming Mandalore the Preserver. Revan, meanwhile, boarded the Ebon Hawk with his trusty T3M4 droid and traveled to Nathema, where he was immediately identified, attacked and knocked unconscious by Darth Nihilus and Lord Scourge, Sith rebels plotting to overthrow the Emperor. Despite ruling without equal for over 1,000 years, several members of the ruling Dark Council still hoped Vitiate might be overthrown. Counted among the conspirators, the powerful Darth Nihilus, a specialist in Sith sorcery, then recruited the talented and respected interrogator Lord Scourge. Traveling to Nathema, Scourge understood why the Emperor must be stopped after feeling the horror of a world without the Force. Lesson learned, the Sith were about to depart when a ship jumped into orbit. Sensing a powerful Force user aboard, they opened fire, causing the vessel to crash land on the planet's surface. Recovering the still-living body of Revan, Nihilus knew him as one of 2 Jedi captured by Vitiate, and soon realized he must have broke free of the Emperor's influence. Secretly bringing their captive to her compound, Revan was drugged, tortured, and interrogated by Scourge for the next 3 years, in the hopes of extracting information they might use in their rebellion. Yet Scourge grew disillusioned with Nihilus as their supposed rebellion never materialized, and became increasingly fascinated with Revan's ability to channel both the light and dark sides, laying the foundations of a potential alliance. Revan then saw a vision of his old Jedi protege Meetra Surik, and knew she was coming to his rescue. As all this occurred, T3M4 remained with their crashed ship on Nathema, making repairs so it might leave and search for its master. Upon the droid's departure, it was found by none other than Meetra Surik, the former Jedi exile, beginning a journey that led her to defeat the Sith Triumvirate, which rose from the remnants of Malak's Sith Empire. After claiming victory for the Republic in the Dark Wars, Meetra sought the blessing of Bastila Shan before embarking on a mission with T3M4 to follow Revan's trail, eventually leading them to Dromund Kaas, where her inquiries brought her to a meeting with Lord Scourge. Learning of her connection to Revan, it was not long before all 3 entered into an alliance to destroy the Emperor. Betraying Nihilus, Scourge and Meetra liberated Revan and gave him his old mask, causing a flood of memories to resurface, collapsing him to the ground. When Nihilus arrived, she used her immense powers to defeat both Scourge and Meetra, but was swiftly destroyed by Revan when he rose to declare, "I am Revan Reborn, and before me, you are nothing." Forming a plan, the Jedi Sith allies were ready to assassinate their target, and so Scourge escorted Revan and Meetra to the Emperor's throne room, and might have made it, if not for the Guardiari, who recognized and exposed Revan, starting a battle in the outside hall. While Scourge and Meetra remained to deal with the guards, Revan burst into the throne room, attacking the Emperor with all his might. To Vitiate's astonishment, the former Jedi and Sith Lord proved a challenging opponent, absorbing, blocking, and deflecting blows, even going on the offense with powerful energy blasts from both the light and dark sides of the Force. For the first time in a millennia, the Immortal Sith Emperor felt a moment of genuine fear, facing an unexpected threat that might actually stand a chance before his incredible power. Yet this shock was only temporary, and the Emperor soon summoned a lightning storm so terrible it would have finished Revan if not for the faithful droid T3M4, who charged and unleashed his flamethrower, distracting the enemy and saving his master. Vitiate immediately destroyed the droid, and was about to resume his attack on Revan, when Meetra Surik ran in and threw her lightsaber at the Emperor's hand, stopping him from landing a killing blow. Scourge followed close behind and saw this as a mistake, since Meetra could have thrown the lightsaber directly at Vitiate, ending his rule and accomplishing their mission if only she was willing to sacrifice Revan in the process. Ready to launch their united attack, the Sith Lord Scourge, for the first time in his life, was struck by a Force vision in which he saw another Jedi in the far future, not Revan, who would land the final blow against Dark Lord Vitiate. Convinced this attack was doomed to fail, Scourge betrayed his allies and stabbed Meetra Surik through the back, killing her instantly. Taking advantage of the distraction, Vitiate unleashed another storm against Revan, defeating and capturing his enemy before sending him to Maelstrom Prison for interrogation, keeping him alive with machines and Sith alchemy. Scourge, meanwhile, knew he must remain alive to aid the hero he foresaw, and so claimed he was only pretending to join the Jedi, purposely luring them to the Emperor, who was the only one powerful enough to defeat Revan. Satisfied with this response, Vitiate rewarded Scourge by granting him the position of Emperor's Wrath, in addition to the gift of immortality through a terrible dark side ritual which caused constant and unending pain, promising he would eventually grow numb to the agony. For 300 years, Revan was held prisoner, tortured savagely, and used as a source of Force energy for the Emperor, who even linked their minds to extract all information possible about the Galactic Republic and their defenses. During these centuries of torment, Revan was comforted and supported by the Force ghost of Mitra Surik, who remained by his side even after death. With her help, and through his own immense powers, Revan was able to reverse the Dark Lord's mental connection, allowing him to subtly, but significantly influence the Emperor's mind, delaying his planned invasion of the Republic for 3 centuries. And so in the end, despite his imprisonment and the failed assassination attempt, Revan succeeded in accomplishing his primary objective by ensuring that both his wife and son lived out their lives in peace. Under the influence of his captive Revan, the Emperor delayed his invasion of the Republic for 3 centuries, instead shifting his focus to deal with the new feelings and ideas revolutionizing his thoughts. For 1,000 years, the Emperor believed himself untouchable, an immortal Dark Lord of the Sith, accomplishing feats beyond anything his predecessors could ever achieve. Then, in 3950 BBY, he battled Revan, a former Jedi and Sith Lord who channeled both the light and dark sides of the Force. Confronted by something new and powerful, the Emperor felt his terrible fear of death resurface, realizing that perhaps there were powers in the galaxy that might rival his own, or else might threaten his life in the future. Therefore, after imprisoning Revan, he retreated further into the shadows of his empire to research past Sith and their quest for immortality, discovering the ritual of essence transfer used by Karnus Moor, one of the original Dark Jedi that founded the Sith Order and Empire. Mastering the technique, Vitiate hid his original, ageless pure-blood body under stasis in a secret location, while transferring his essence into a host body called the Emperor's Voice, from which he ruled the Sith Empire. Throughout the years, he inhabited numerous hosts, including a young human woman, an elderly Sith pureblood, and a human male. Truly determined to avoid death by any means, he eventually carved a dark side ritual onto his original body, so that if both his spirit and original body were ever destroyed, an imprint of the Emperor would unleash like a plague, capturing the minds of those nearby to merge into a single being, gaining power with every new body brought into the collective. Although the creature created would not have the memories of the Emperor, it would have its powers. With his immortality reinforced and a contingency plan in place, Vitiate next turned to yet another awakening in his mind. Not only did Revan provoke fear in the Emperor, but also burning curiosity, as if discovering a whole new side to the Force. Delving deep into Revan's mind during the years of his imprisonment, the Emperor learned all he could of the man, of his life in the Republic and immense love for Bastila Shan, seeking to understand how an unorthodox Force wielder could accomplish so much and reach such impressive heights of power. Wrestling with new thoughts and emotions, and perhaps even inspired by the life of Revan, the Emperor started to disassociate himself with the legacy and traditions of the Sith Order. Though he undoubtedly remained a dark side being, his personal philosophy evolved beyond the light versus dark side beliefs of the Jedi and Sith. Eager for a fresh start where he might experiment with these ideas, Vitiate's consciousness left Sith space chasing rumors of the Eternal Fleet, an ancient armada of automated ships which wrought havoc in wild space, until defeated by the ship Gravestone, wielding a powerful omni-cannon in a final battle above the planet Zakuul. The victorious ship was then scuttled in the swamps of Zakuul. Both the Eternal Fleet and Gravestone were built by a highly advanced species from the planet Iokath, with the victor remembered by the people of Zakuul as the dragon god Zildrog. Though part of him remained to speak through the Emperor's voice, his realm was left to be administered almost entirely by the Dark Council, with Vitiate appearing increasingly distracted and uninterested in the affairs of the Sith Empire. Traveling into wild space, he found the planet Zakuul and learned of its people, encountering a primitive population of humans, now worshipping a pantheon of 6 old gods in the religion of the Old Ways, creating a mythology around 6 superweapons from the planet Iokath, which attacked their world many years earlier, wiping out large segments of the population. By this time, the gravestone-inspired deity Zildrog, which predated the pantheon, was combined with the old god Isaac's, the ultimate devourer. Each of their nomadic tribes were ruled by a Force-sensitive matriarch, champion, and high shaman. Inspired by these grim and strong-willed people, the Emperor's consciousness chose the warrior Valkorion as his new host, before using the local belief system to his advantage, claiming to be the demon savior prophesied in their religion, an outcast who rose to challenge and overthrow their chief god Isaacs to become an immortal god of gods that might lead the people into a new era. Ruling as their god emperor, Valkorion founded the Eternal Empire, creating an advanced, prosperous, and content civilization by implementing his newfound philosophical values, unbound by light and dark side limitations. Showing his people kindness, compassion, and justice, in addition to iron-handed authoritarian leadership, the people of Zakuul thrived, ever grateful to their wondrous leader as they reached great heights of wealth and power. In order to ensure peace in his new empire, Valkorion combined and repurposed the roles of Matriarch, Champion, and High Shaman to create the Knights of Zakuul, a new class of Force warrior wielding lightsaber pikes, who saw this primordial energy as a tool for justice and nothing more, used only to enforce the law. While the Knights trained their Force powers through physical combat, Valkorion created the Scions to serve as champions of the mind, often focusing their Force powers to see the future for their master, becoming fanatical in their belief of destiny and the truth of their visions. It was with the aid of the Scions that Valkorion finally located the fabled Eternal Fleet, bringing the Gemini droid pilots under his command through the Eternal Throne, sat atop the tallest starscraper in Zakuul City, the Emperor's beloved capital built atop a great spire. A massive undertaking, their greatest minds worked for generations to build the Eternal Throne, completing its construction roughly 2 centuries after the capture of Revan. Forging a powerful civilization where he earned the people's love and respect, the Emperor was so proud of his accomplishment he changed his long-term plans, abandoning his ambitions for the Sith Empire to instead seek the rise of the Eternal Empire as conquerors of the galaxy. To accomplish this goal, he would go ahead with the Sith Empire's invasion of the Republic, in the hopes of weakening both substantially, while also using the massive death count to refuel his immortality. Throughout the centuries of preparation for the coming war, at some point, the Emperor recruited the Force-sensitive Ovair family of the Republic, using them as infiltrators, spies, and agents within the Jedi Order. In 3756 BBY, the Emperor activated his servant Beryl Ovair and sent him to the planet Yavin 4 on a mission to destroy the spirit of Naga Sadow. Vitiate once lived under the reign of and owed allegiance to the Emperor Naga Sadow, who defeated Ludo Kresh to succeed the great Marker Ragnos. But after 1,000 years ruling an empire of his own, the knowledge that Naga Sadow's spirit lived on inflamed his Sith senses, meaning this being was a rival that must be eliminated. Arriving on Yavin 4 with his apprentice Isen Gint, Beryl Ovair delved into the depths of a great temple where they were attacked by the descendants of Sadow's ever-faithful Massassi warriors. Returning to the Jedi without his apprentice, it is believed Ovair purposely left Gint behind as part of a larger strategy, offering a tempting target for Sadow's spirit to inhabit. In this way, Sadow would be encouraged to leave the protection of his temple and seek out Beryl Ovair as a known adversary and servant of the rival emperor. This plan worked to perfection, as Sadow took Gint's body and attacked Ovair in broad daylight on Coruscant, putting up a valiant struggle before he was defeated and destroyed by the undercover Jedi. Succeeding in his mission, Ovair not only destroyed Naga Sadow for his Sith master, but was also hailed a hero by the Jedi and Republic. Taking Yavin 4 as his own, the Emperor founded an Imperial Guard Academy to protect the Temple of Sacrifice, which housed an ancient artifact that would allow its owner to absorb all life on the moon. Establishing yet another failsafe, this artifact would activate if his Sith host, the Emperor's voice, was assassinated, thereby allowing him to regain any strength lost from such a blow. Ruling both the Eternal and Sith Empires through the host bodies Valkorion and the Emperor's voice, the being once known as Vitiate was nearly ready for his invasion of the Republic, building spy networks, recruiting agents, and running war games, while also making an alliance with the Chiss Ascendancy and installing puppet governments on outer rim planets like Belkadan, Ruria, and Cernpadal, bringing them into the Empire before the fighting began. Seeking avenues to expand the reach of his direct influence and omnipresence, the Emperor placed the former Jedi Darth Nul in charge of a project to create the Children of the Emperor, individuals imprinted with the power of the ruling Dark Lord, to serve as spies and eventual hosts, allowing him to take complete control of their bodies at any moment. Becoming mother to the children, Darth Nul helped capture, indoctrinate, and imprint their victims until she ceased her usefulness and was eliminated. Taking a personal interest in the training of the first of these children, the Emperor took the apprentice Exal Kresh in the early 3600s, preparing her mind and body to become a host for his will. A descendant of the famed Ludo Kresh, who once fought Naga Sadow for leadership of the Old Sith Empire, Exal Kresh was an intelligent, highly skilled, and powerful Force user, deeply loyal and obedient to her master. After centuries of delay, the Emperor finally overcame the influence of his captive Revan to enact his grand design in 3681 BBY, a plan first conceived over 1,000 years earlier as a means to exact vengeance against the Jedi and Republic for the defeat of the Old Sith Empire in the Great Hyperspace War of 5000 BBY. Yet after a millennia of rule, the invasion now meant so much more, as the Eternal Empire waited in the shadows for the Republic and Sith to weaken each other so they might conquer the galaxy. Revealing part of his greater vision to the Dark Council and Sith Empire, powerful Sith Lords and conventional military forces took charge of the details, planning a masterful long-term strategy for victory. Beginning the Great Galactic War, the Empire launched a swift and brutal attack against the Jedi-led garrison of their ancient homeworld Korriban, defeating their enemies and taking the planet so efficiently, the rest of the Republic did not learn of this conquest until further losses were already upon them. Early into the battle, Sith Lord Vindicant and his apprentice Malgus found the garrison leader, Jedi Master Keo Sindarach, and his Padawan Satil Shan, a descendant of Revan, engaging in a vicious four-way duel. Sacrificing himself so his Padawan could escape, Master Darach took on both Sith Lords at once, and even wounded Lord Vindicant before he was killed by Malgus. Though Satil escaped, Darach was dead, and so Malgus, taking advantage of the opportunity, finished off his Master Vindicant to complete his training as a Sith Lord, and stand as the sole victor upon this battlefield. Despite this brutal initial victory for the Sith, the rest of the Republic did not notice the danger until the assault in the Tingle Arm, when reports came in concerning the sudden presence of Imperial battlecruisers. Hoping to open a dialogue, the government sent a team of diplomats to the region, allowing the Sith to announce their presence by destroying the enemy ships only after they came close enough to take images of a massive Imperial armada ready for war. Responding to this aggression, the Republic sent a fleet to the Tingle Arm, near the planets Belkadan, Ruria, and Cernpedal, but in doing so, fell into a trap where they were surrounded and betrayed by those they thought allies. Inflicting yet another defeat upon their enemy, the Sith next targeted the planet Sluis Van, which hosted a significant manufacturing facility for the Republic fleet, bombing and destroying its shipyards, defeating ground forces, and killing anyone who was a soldier or refused to swear allegiance to the Emperor, a practice often repeated after future conquests. Meanwhile, the Republic Senate was paralyzed by division and indecision, with a vocal minority refusing to take the war seriously, unwilling to commit the resources necessary for a proper large-scale defense. Hoping to inspire the government and people to action, the Jedi Order took the lead in this fight, recognizing the danger posed by their ancient enemies in the Sith Order, and so chose the Minos Cluster to make their stand. Though the fighting was hard and progressed slowly, the Jedi scored impressive victories and made enough gains to succeed in their primary objective, inspiring many Republic citizens to join the military and spur the government into action. Compelled by public, military, and Jedi pressure, the Senate finally gave in and authorized a serious response to the invasion. Sending a defense fleet to the Saswana sector, they began their efforts by seeking to end a blockade against the Rimma trade route, cutting off valuable resources to Republic worlds. Although their first attack failed, they eventually succeeded, giving them a taste of victory and hope for the future. While the Sith steadily won the majority of battles throughout the first 3 years of the war, the enemy grew increasingly aggressive and resourceful, making the Empire work hard to keep and expand their territory. Yet the ruling Dark Lord spent so many years preparing for this moment. The Republic was largely outmatched, with the many agents and spy networks of the Sith Empire wreaking havoc within the government, military, and Jedi Order. Yet this was not enough for the Emperor, who wished a more direct hand in the operations of his servants across the galaxy. Continuing his mission to prepare children as host bodies, the former Vitiate sought further research into the concept, sending his apprentice Exal Kresh to the planet Lenico IV to study the local Ortolan people who believed their ancestral shamans could live on through their descendants. Yet it was in the course of this investigation she realized the truth of her master's plans, that she was being trained to serve as the first of his children, a host which he might activate and occupy at any given moment. Refusing to surrender herself, Exal rebelled and started feeding information to the Republic while she engaged in a new mission to destroy the Children project of her former master. Learning of this treachery, the Sith assassin, Tenebrae, was sent to eliminate this rogue operative, chasing her across the galaxy until 3678 BBY, when he finally struck her down in the Sith Academy on Korriban. Having learned of her purpose and the children, Tenebrae returned to the Dark Council and announced his success, while also demanding a promotion in exchange for information about the Emperor's secret project. Agreeing to his terms, Tenebrae became Darth Fenneton, a Dark Lord of the Sith who eventually grew his power base to earn a seat on the Dark Council. The second time he was betrayed by a Kresh, the Emperor banished her family name and destroyed all known records of their history and famous lineage, doing his best to erase their contributions to the Sith Order and strip any surviving relatives of their noble blood and legitimacy. The immediate threat to his personal project eliminated, the Emperor continued to kidnap children, training and preparing them with Sith rituals before endowing them with power to become vessels of his will. Ready to unleash his masterwork, the altered children were scattered across the galaxy, including many to the Republic and Jedi, where most lived out their lives entirely unaware they were spies and hosts for the Sith Emperor. Aided by information sent from the Emperor's former apprentice Exal Kresh, the Republic gathered a mighty fleet and launched their first major counteroffensive, targeting the Sith homeworld of Korriban in 3678 BBY. Yet, as was often the case in those early years, the Republic was soundly defeated and driven from Sith space. Continuing on for 28 years, the Great Galactic War saw the Sith Empire make enormous gains in the outer and mid-rims, while launching brutal attacks as far as the core worlds. Though the Republic did eventually rally the full might of their realm to halt the enemy's advance, they nonetheless took tremendous losses that made it clear they were on the losing end of the conflict. By the end of the war, in 3653 BBY, many devastating battles were fought, like on Balmorra, Ilum, Manon, Bathawui, Alderaan, Hoth, Sereno, and many more, grinding down to a stalemate, rapidly depleting resources and manpower on both sides. Seeing no possible path to victory, many in the Republic were ready to negotiate peace, despite objections from the Jedi Order, as were some within the Sith Empire, which desperately needed time to recover from decades of losses. Yet the decision ultimately rested with the Emperor, who after decades of resistance was once again falling under the mental influence of his captive Revan. For 3 centuries, the former Jedi and Dark Lord stopped the Emperor from waging the Great Galactic War until he overcame the manipulation and went through with his plans. But Revan did not stop trying to save the Republic, and so nearly 3 decades later, his influence once more took hold, convincing the Emperor to accept a partial victory, establish terms of peace, and move on to other pursuits. Authorizing peace talks led by the Sith Lord Darth Baras on Alderaan, the Emperor nonetheless wished to end the war in a position of strength, and so while these negotiations went on, Darth Angral was sent with a powerful fleet to strike at the heart of the Republic, sacking the capital Coruscant. Planning the strike in extraordinary detail, the Empire, aided by their Mandalorian allies, laid waste to large swaths of their great city, including the Jedi Temple, where Darth Malgus led a Sith army against Master Venzalo and his Jedi defenders, ultimately killing the Lightsiders and Republic Chancellor while occupying the Senate building. Learning of this terrible loss, the Republic delegation on Alderaan felt no choice but to accept the terms of peace offered by Darth Baras, ending the Great Galactic War with the Sith scoring an impressive, though incomplete victory. Due to the Treaty of Coruscant, which formally ended the war, the Republic's capital world was returned, while the Sith kept all worlds they conquered and gained many more. Other worlds were forced to leave the Republic, thus making them easy targets for the Empire. The Jedi, army, and fleet were given a timeline to withdraw from all lost worlds and engagements, with the Sith permitted to use force if they did not comply. The Empire even won the right to assign supervisor droids to individual enemies they did not trust, ensuring their compliance with the treaty. Ushering in years of tension, skirmishes, proxy battles, and an overall state of Cold War, the Jedi Order were blamed for the loss by many on Coruscant, and so they moved their headquarters to their ancient homeworld of Tython where they might rebuild their strength. Temporarily sated by his victory in the war, the Emperor retreated back to the shadows to focus on other interests, leaving their newly expanded empire under the rule of the Dark Council, which consolidated power while competing to elevate their influence within the government. Throughout the years of this prolonged galactic conflict, waging a massive interstellar war was not the only priority for the Emperor, as even during some of the most intense fighting, his attention was partially pulled away by his life as Valkorian in his true home of the Eternal Empire. Critically impacted by the influence of Revan, it was possible the Emperor grew curious about the concept of a loving family, something he never experienced even as a child, admiring the depths of his captive's passion for Bastila Shan and the son they created. Interested in experimenting with these concepts further, Valkorian followed in the footsteps of Revan by falling in love with a strong-willed warrior serving an order of Force wielders, assigning the Knight of Zakuul, Senya Terrell, to his personal guard where they began a romantic relationship, demonstrating what seemed like genuine affection throughout their courtship and eventual marriage. Yet as his attention was pulled toward the many setbacks and failures faced throughout his decades-long Sith War, his attitude grew colder, more distant and harsh, not only in his marriage, but also with their children, as Senya gave birth to elder twin boys, Thexan and Arcann, as well as a younger daughter, Vaylin. Training his sons as powerful Force users from an early age, Valkorian taught them a harsh dark side philosophy that claimed they could have anything if they were willing to sacrifice. Perhaps remembering his own childhood of solitary hardship and violence, the Emperor sought to fuel anger, hatred, and ambition in his sons, expecting the highest standards while offering no praise or affection whatsoever. As expected, the highly skilled and accomplished twins grew increasingly resentful, though Thexan proved more temperate with his feelings, while Arcann grew obsessed with gaining his father's approval, and at the same time hated him for the emotional neglect. Somewhat ignored by their father in her younger years, Vaylin spent much of her childhood with her mother, who noticed her growing Force powers, and having witnessed the treatment of her sons, tried to shield her daughter from the machinations of her husband. But in time, the Emperor took note and investigated, realizing with a touch of pride, Vaylin was the most similar to him, capable of immense power and violence. Though Senya begged him to help her, he instead brought the young girl to the barren, lifeless world Nathema, where she was subjected to torture, cruelty, and terrible pain through experiments and Sith rituals, which in time conditioned her mind and limited her abilities to ensure she did not become a rival for power. Yet these experiences also greatly changed her personality to become a violent sociopath for the rest of her life. With her sons entirely devoted to their father, Senya was determined to at least save her youngest child, and so organized a rescue mission, only to learn it was too late, as Vaylin refused to leave, filled with hatred for her mother, who she believed abandoned her long ago. Heartbroken and alone, Senya fled to the furthest reaches of the Eternal Empire. Whatever fascination the Emperor felt with love and family, by the end of the Great Galactic War, his curiosity was sated, and as always, he was ready to move on to other interests. And so with the experiment concluded, he allowed his marriage to fail, and determined to train his children as great Force users to serve as powerful agents of his will. Even so, he continued to harbor some semblance of affection for Senya, thus allowed her to live, and at times even remembered her fondly. Entering into a decades-long period of Cold War, Jedi Master Darnala emerged as one of the most active critics against the Treaty of Coruscant. Present on Alderaan when those in negotiation learned of the attack on Coruscant, she was enraged to witness the Republic's surrender to Darth Baras of the Sith, agreeing to the terms of defeat. Refusing to stand by and accept this loss, many Republic citizens attempted to disrupt the peace or pursue personal vengeance, like when Darnala entered into a conspiracy to restart the war, orchestrating assassinations and terrorist bombings, until she fell attempting to kill Darth Baras, or like Aaron Lanier, who failed in her mission to assassinate the Sith Lord Darth Malgus, as she sought to avenge the death of her master, Venzalo, during the sacking of Coruscant. As the political landscape of the galaxy transformed after the war, the Imperial Mandalorian Alliance ended, while the Hutt Cartel took advantage of the chaos to expand their influence significantly. Settling new borders, the galaxy was divided into 5 strategic regions, including the Core Worlds, Outer Rim, Hutt Space, Unknown Regions, and the seat of the Empire. Though hostility remained between the Republic and Sith, there were occasions where they worked together to solve a common problem, like when the Sith exile Lama Zendrit built powerful hex droids on Sebedon to protect her clone daughter, only for their interpretations of these orders to evolve, eventually seeking to conquer the galaxy, thereby eliminating every potential threat. Working together for a time, the Republic and Empire successfully destroyed the droids, yet tensions were so high, the enemy fleets then turned against each other to engage in a brief skirmish above the planet. As the years of uneasy peace continued, other conflicts, both brief and enduring, erupted throughout the galaxy, like on Alderaan, Ord Mantell, Balmorra, Taris, Belsavis, and others. In 3645 BBY, the Sith discovered the people of Voss, ruled by Force-sensitive mystics able to see the future. Intrigued, the Dark Lord captured one of these mystics to serve as the Emperor's voice. Every day, the galaxy ventured further toward the outbreak of open war, like when Darth Angral sought vengeance for the death of his son and attacked the Jedi homeworld of Tython in 3643 BBY. During this engagement, Angral located the Jedi Padawan Kira Carson, a former child of the Emperor, and so contacted the Dark Lord, who took direct control of her body. Yet Kira Carson was ultimately saved by her powerful Jedi Master, who killed Darth Angral, saved the planet, and created a wall of light in the mind of their apprentice, cutting her off from the Emperor's influence. Praised for saving their homeworld and the life of his Padawan, this Jedi savior became known as the Hero of Tython, leaving a profound impression on the Dark Lord, who marveled at the strength of this potential rival, keeping a close eye on their progress as a Force wielder. Still under the influence of his old, imprisoned adversary, Revan, the Emperor continued to advocate for a state of peace. Yet after 3 centuries of cruel torture, the former Jedi hero grew weaker by the moment and neared a final death, prompting his old companion, Mitra Surik, who remained by his side as a Force ghost, to embark upon a mission to secure his freedom. Departing for a time, Mitra visited Jedi Master Oteg of the Republic, convincing him to organize a strike team and rescue Revan from Maelstrom Prison. At first, the former Jedi turned Sith Lord was upset to be free, knowing that was the end of his influence over the Emperor, but soon enough, he realized his death would have accomplished nothing, and now he could take a more active role in stopping their hated enemy. Informing the Jedi Council of all he knew concerning the Imperial threat, Revan set out to find his old droid HK-47 and recover his mask before seeking the Foundry, an ancient Rakatan automated manufacturing facility similar to the Starforge, the location of which he shielded from the Emperor throughout all those years of torture. Determined to end the Imperial threat at any cost, Revan constructed an army of extermination droids designed to wipe out everyone of Sith ancestry throughout the galaxy. Overseeing various important operations for the Empire, Darth Malgus learned of Revan's location and sent a strike team in pursuit, even claiming the Emperor allowed Revan to escape so they could follow him and take the Foundry. Battling their way through the facility, the Imperials destroyed HK-47 before confronting and slaying Revan in a final battle, capturing the Foundry for the Empire. Yet Revan eluded death once more, as his mastery of both the light and dark sides of the Force allowed his spirit to split in two, with his light side half desiring to become one with the Force, while his dark side half clung to the world and his physical body. Fueled by his hatred for the Emperor and a desire for vengeance, Dark Side Revan took control of the Revanites, a faction which revered him on Dromund Kaas, turning them into an extremist and fanatical cult. Under his leadership, they infiltrated both the Empire and Republic, placing many of their agents in positions of power. Meanwhile, as the Jedi felt war on the horizon, Master Tol Braga came up with a bold but foolish plan to avoid another catastrophic conflict by leading a strike team, which included the Hero of Tython, to capture the Emperor and somehow redeem him to the light side. Yet the Emperor mocked him for his arrogance and easily defeated the strike team, capturing Tol Braga and the Hero of Tython for corruption to the dark side. Without Revan to temper the Emperor's violent nature, the Sith Empire was once again ready for war, assigning Darth Baras the task of instigating another conflict. Creating Plan Zero, Baras and his apprentice successfully assassinated a number of important Republic officials, provoking an expected hostile reaction and the outbreak of a galactic war between the Old Republic and Sith Empire from 3642 to 3636 BBY. For his efforts, Darth Baras was rewarded with a position on the Dark Council, but it was not enough to sate his ambitions, and so started planning to replace the Emperor and become the new leader of the Empire. Knowing the Dark Lord's fascination with Voss, Baras lured the Emperor's voice to the planet so he might study the Selmachor, a dangerous dark side being, which then trapped the host body and prevented the Dark Lord's consciousness from retaining control or escaping. With the Emperor trapped on Voss, Baras pretended to be the new Emperor's voice and took control of the Empire, yet the former Vitiate was able to contact his devoted servants, the Hand, using them to recruit the former apprentice of Baras as the new Emperor's Wrath, before ordering him to Voss, where he drove back the Selmachor and, as instructed, slayed his master's host body, thereby freeing the Emperor's spirit, which allowed him to enter the body of a human male as the next voice. The Emperor's Wrath then confronted Darth Baras in the Dark Council chamber, defeating him in a duel to the death. After centuries serving as the Emperor's wrath, the Sith Lord Scourge was at long last ready to betray his master and enact his plans. Having learned, the Emperor sought to repeat the ritual performed on Nathema to further extend his life and enhance his powers. Scourge feared the Dark Lord might eventually wipe out the entire galaxy, draining the force energy of all living beings. Therefore, when Scourge recognized the hero of Tython during the failed attack against the Emperor, he suspected the vision that caused his betrayal of Revan would finally come to pass. Needing to be certain before turning his back on the Sith ruler, Scourge observed the hero of Tython during his captivity and training in the dark side, and so witnessed the Jedi break free from the Emperor's control and rescue Kira Carson, thanks in part to the Force ghost of Master Augustin. Convinced this was the person from his vision, Scourge sought to gain their trust by freeing the other imprisoned companions. Accompanying the Lightsiders to Tython and the Jedi Council, Scourge explained his belief the Emperor wanted to consume the Force energy of all life in the galaxy, but in the end would be defeated by the hero of Tython as seen in the Sith Lord's vision. Revealing that Vitiate would start by draining the population of the prison world Belsavis, Scourge joined the hero and their companions in traveling to the planet, where they stopped an Emperor-worshipping death cult from detonating a power core. Although they succeeded in preventing the ritual, the chaos that erupted on Belsavis allowed for the Sith-allied Dreadmasters to escape captivity. Continuing their campaign to prevent the Emperor from draining another world, the hero of Tython next traveled to Voss, where they defeated the Sith Lord Fulminus, who allied with the dark side being Selmacor to destroy the population. Their journey then took them to war-torn Corellia, where the captured and corrupted Jedi Master Tol Braga made his own attempt to fuel the Emperor's dark side ritual. Named Supreme Commander of all Jedi forces in the Battle of Corellia, the hero of Tython steadily pushed back the Sith until defeating Tol Braga before he could overload his ship's reactors to scatter radiation in every direction. Redeeming Tol Braga to the light side, the hero of Tython next prepared to face the Emperor directly on Dromund Kaas. As all this occurred, many others across the galaxy contributed in their own way to defeat the Sith, including the Barson Thor, or Warden of the Order, a consular Jedi Master whose travels also led him to Corellia, where he fought against the children of the Emperor and their leader, Jedi Master Sio Bakarn, a spy secretly trained as first son of the Emperor. Although he was unaware of this secondary personality throughout much of his life, the first son was eventually activated as leader of the children, sending them as spies and agents to secure the guardian holds of Coronet City, granting the Empire a great advantage in the war for Corellia. Arriving on the planet, the Barson Thor defeated the children and one by one recaptured the guardian holds, culminating in a battle with Sio Bakarn, during which his light side personality re-emerged and took back control of his body, redeeming the fallen Jedi Master who was then sent to Tython for recovery. As a reward for his heroism, the Barson Thor was given Sio Bakarn's former seat on the Jedi Council, and with the defeat of the first son, the Lightsiders could now identify and track down the other children of the Emperor, landing a severe blow to the Sith spy and infiltration network. Transferring his command, the hero of Tython left Corellia and forged a plan where Grand Master Satele Shan would attack Dromund Kaas with a Republic fleet, providing a distraction while Lord Scourge led a small team to infiltrate the Dark Temple and attack the Emperor. The epicenter of dark-side energy on Dromund Kaas, the Sith Dark Lord was residing in the temple he used for experiments and to house powerful artifacts as well as the spirits of slain enemies. Knowing only the hero of Tython was strong enough to resist the Emperor's will, Scourge and the other companions were charged with side missions, while their leader, accompanied by the droid T-701, confronted Vitiate. Engaging in an epic duel where the Emperor lashed out with powerful Force lightning strikes and Force-projected duplicates, the hero of Tython ultimately emerged victorious, crushing his enemy under a pillar, resulting in a dark side shockwave that collapsed the temple. Hastily departing, the hero informed Master Shan of their victory, allowing her to pull back Republic forces. Reuniting aboard the ship Valiant, the hero of Tython was promoted to Jedi Master, and alongside their companions, including Lord Scourge, were celebrated and honored with the Cross of Glory, the same award granted to Revan after he saved the galaxy centuries earlier during the Jedi Civil War. While the hero and Republic thought they defeated the Emperor once and for all, Scourge was not convinced, and was proven correct as they had only destroyed his host body, while the Dark Lord's spirit retreated to Yavin 4 for rest and recuperation. Still in contact with their eternal master, the fanatical Hand of the Emperor organization recovered the original body of Tenebrae and moved it to a secure, hidden location, while also relaying orders to the Emperor's new wrath in the hopes of maintaining some semblance of order and unity within the Empire. Yet others, including many Imperial citizens, believed the Emperor was gone, allowing ambitious Sith Lords to rise and take control. One of the first to seize this opportunity was Darth Malgus, a powerful Darksider who annexed the Emperor's space station and declared his own Sith Empire, implementing new rules that promoted organizational cooperation and valued its members based on merit, loyalty, and ability, rather than corrupt politics and race-based discrimination. This more open-minded and tolerant philosophy attracted many to join his new Sith Empire, and while they won several initial battles, were defeated on the planet Ilum by the combined efforts of the Republic and Old Sith Empire. Severely weakened by his defeat, the Emperor's strength also diminished in his other host body, Valkorion of the Eternal Empire, allowing his daughter Vaylin to break free from much of the mental conditioning she endured as a child, though she did not reveal the extent of her powers, instead biding her time until the right moment to strike out on her own. Seeming to have lost their Emperor, the Sith continued to fracture until the well-respected Dark Counselor Darth Mar stepped up and removed himself from the usual petty politics and power plays to become the unofficial leader of the military and Empire, demonstrating a sincere desire to keep them united and prosperous. Facing yet another breakaway Darkside faction, Darth Mar sent a strike team to deal with the Dreadmasters, who only answered to the Emperor, and without him sought to conquer the galaxy on their own. Fighting a brutal campaign on the moon Arcann against both the Republic and Empire, the Dreadmasters were eventually defeated, ending the Dread War. Meanwhile, Darkside Revan grew the power and influence of the Revanites in both the Empire and Republic, with the aim of eliminating both superpowers so no one could stop his confrontation with the Emperor. Using their highly placed agents, the Revanites began the Infinite Army Project to create powerful cyborg warriors on Lahan, but his plans were undone when the Republic and Empire embarked upon a joint mission to destroy their production facilities. Undaunted, Revan next attempted to set a trap on the planet Rishi that would force the enemy superpowers into a military confrontation, but again was thwarted when his undercover agents and plans were exposed. Enraged by yet another defeat, and having learned the Emperor's spirit was in hiding, Revan invaded Yavin 4 and defeated the Imperial Guards to perform a dark side ritual that would consume all life on the moon, with the aim of restoring the Emperor to a physical body so Revan could face him in personal combat. Seeking to stop this ritual, Satil Shan of the Republic and Darth Mar of the Empire made a temporary truce to defeat the Revanites, sending a great host of heroes against Darkside Revan, who fought valiantly but was defeated. Yet the battle on Yavin 4 resulted in such a massive loss of life, it partially restored the Emperor's strength, allowing his consciousness to mock his enemies before departing. His mission a failure, Darkside Revan was confronted by his light side half, and was at last convinced to accept death, resulting in the disappearance of his body, leaving only his mask and lightsaber. Departing from Yavin 4, the Emperor's spirit traveled to Zyos, where he used his renewed powers to possess the population, fomenting mass deaths to further fuel his recovery. Though Republic and Imperial strike teams attempted to stop him and evacuate the population, they were unable to make much progress before the Emperor conducted a ritual similar to that on Nathema, sending forth a dark side wave that drained the force energy from the planet, leaving Zyos a barren world devoid of life save for a few Sith spawn monoliths. Successfully revitalizing his strength, the Emperor felt he finally conquered death, and no longer deemed it necessary to use short-term host bodies like the voices of the Emperor, or corrupted agents like the children of the Emperor, declaring the entire Sith Empire a failed experiment, and so fully possessed the body of Valkorion to focus on growing the Eternal Empire, considering it his greatest accomplishment and the pinnacle of civilization which he'd use to conquer the galaxy. While preparing for their invasion of the Republic and Sith Empire, Valkorion's twin sons, Thexan and Arcann, offered to embark on a campaign to test the strength of their enemies. The Emperor agreed, but insisted Thexan should command their armies on his own, while ordering Arcann to stay behind. Disobeying his father, Arcann joined his brother, and together they attacked a number of enemy worlds, including the Jedi and Sith homeworlds of Tython and Korriban, winning many great victories. Yet while fighting on Korriban, Arcann was severely wounded, losing an eye and arm, for which the Emperor had no sympathy, claiming it was the price he paid for defying orders. Successful in their campaign, the twins returned to their father, presenting the lightsabers and banners of their fallen foes, but Valkorion was unmoved and turned his back, dismissing their accomplishment. Enraged by his continual disapproval and disrespect, Arcann lashed out and attacked his father, but just as he was about to strike, Thexan used the Force to pull him back. Still enraptured by dark-side anger, Arcann engaged his brother in a brief lightsaber duel, before landing a killing blow, after which he was immediately regretful, holding Thexan as he died. Impressed by this act of dark-side strength, Valkorion finally demonstrated approval and offered Arcann his hand. Determined to seek out those responsible for the recent invasions of their worlds, Darth Mar and a well-respected ally led a joint Republic and Imperial expedition, which succeeded in reaching Zakuul, but was ultimately defeated by the Eternal Fleet. Taken captive, Darth Mar was outraged to learn Valkorion was the former Sith Emperor, refusing to kneel in submission, and instead attacked and killed several Knights of Zakuul until slain by the Emperor's Force lightning. After Vaylin cleared the room, the Emperor repeated his demand of submission to Mar's ally, only to be betrayed by Arcann, who launched an attack that ended with the death of Valkorion, though his spirit once again survived, attaching itself to Mar's ally, thereafter known as the Outlander. Yet rather than attempt to immediately possess this body, as he did with the temporary voices of the Emperor, which could not handle the full extent of his powers, and were quickly corrupted and consumed by his dark side energy, the Emperor instead sought to repeat what he did with Valkorion to create a more permanent, long-term host by living inside the Outlander's mind for a time, keeping the hero physically strong and capable, while gradually manipulating and diminishing their internal confidence, hollowing out their mind with the aim of eventually taking full control over a body that might last for centuries. Blaming the Outlander for the assassination, Arcann sat the Eternal Throne and announced the death of his father to the population of Zakuul, promising swift vengeance by conquering the Republic and Sith Empire. Sensing that Valkorion's spirit still lived, Arcann did not kill his enemy, fearing his father's spirit would simply depart and inhabit another vessel, and so instead froze the Outlander in carbonite, thereby imprisoning them both. With the support of his sister Vaylin, Arcann ruled as Emperor for the next 5 years, quickly conquering both the Republic and Sith, after which he imposed strict military limitations to prevent rebellion while extracting resources from the former superpowers that cemented Zakuul as the greatest realm in the galaxy. But everything changed when an old Sith ally, Lana Beniko, led a rescue mission to free the Outlander, escaping into the wilds of Zakuul, where they discovered the Gravestone, an ancient, highly advanced ship capable of defeating the Eternal Fleet. Repairing the Gravestone, the Outlander started gathering allies to oppose Arcann, including his mother, Senya Terrell, while at the same time the former Emperor's weakened spirit offered advice and shared what remained of his powers in a sincere effort to see his son dethroned. Learning the escaped prisoner was at the Asylum Skyport, the Eternal Empire attacked, resulting in the Battle of Asylum, where the Outlander defeated Arcann and Senya bested Vaylin, allowing them to escape on the Gravestone, though both children of Valkorion survived. Finding the planet Odessin, the Outlander settled a base of operations for the Eternal Alliance, recruiting civilian workers, warriors, and Force users from both the Republic and Sith Empire. Ready to test the Alliance commander's abilities, the spirit of the Emperor became confrontational and expressed disappointment before pretending to depart, but in truth was simply waiting for this body to prove its worth as a host. Facing betrayal from within their own ranks, the artificial intelligence Scorpio, which posed as an ally to the Outlander, eventually set her own plan into motion, revealing the location of Odessen to Arcann, who attacked with a segment of the Eternal Fleet. Scorpio then informed the Outlander, granting time to prepare, in the hope both sides would destroy each other. Engaging in the Battle of Odessen, the Outlander again defeated Arcann and left him to die, only for Senya to rescue her son's unconscious body. She also offered to take Vaylin, but her daughter refused and launched an attack which was foiled by Arcann, who awoke and protected his mother. Angered by the betrayal of her brother, Vaylin escaped on her own, while the Outlander allowed Senya to take Arcann into exile, where he might recover and be redeemed. Victorious in the Battle of Odessen, many were now eager to join the Eternal Alliance, while the Emperor's spirit returned, announcing the Outlander was ready. Returning to Zakuul, Vaylin found Scorpio on the Eternal Throne, but the artificial intelligence explained she did not seek to rule, and merely wanted to liberate the Gemini ship captains of the Eternal Fleet, granting them free will to do as they pleased. Some of these captains then departed to pursue their own ambitions, while many others stayed behind, eager to serve under Scorpio, who they considered the great mother of their kind. Thus, Scorpio offered the throne to Vaylin and remained by her side as an advisor and fleet commander. Although Arcann was dethroned, the Outlander next worked to defeat Vaylin, beginning with a journey to Iokath, where they learned Scorpio merged herself with a worldwide supercomputer, while the new Empress was able to reprogram the Gemini droids, removing their freedom to become slaves of her will. The Alliance then infiltrated a grand festival to honor Vaylin on Zakuul, where the Outlander publicly exposed her greatest weakness by saying "kneel" before the Dragon of Zakuul, a phrase programmed into her mind during her childhood conditioning on Nathema, which immediately sapped her powers and strength. Arcann then appeared, revealing he was reformed and now on the side of the commander, causing Vaylin to seek their destruction by ordering the Eternal Fleet to attack her own palace, which failed to kill her enemies but succeeded in massacring her own people, turning the population against her. Fleeing Zakuul, Vaylin traveled to Nathema, where she could have this conditioning removed, and so the Outlander followed, and there found the spirit of the Emperor's father, Sith Lord Dromund, imprisoned within a holocron. Offering to help defeat his hated son, the Outlander left with the holocron, again following Vaylin, who was now free of her conditioning and en route to attack Odessen. Finally facing off against the self-proclaimed Empress, the Alliance commander proved victorious and killed Vaylin, which then had the unforeseen consequence of resetting the Eternal Fleet, which targeted the populations of Zakuul, Coruscant, and Dromund Kaas. To stop this rampage of destruction, the Outlander traveled to Zakuul and sat upon the Eternal Throne, creating the perfect opportunity for the Emperor's spirit to attack and seek full control of this host body, so he might retake his place as ruler of the Eternal Empire. While loyal companions defended the commander's body from attacking skytroopers, the Outlander fought an internal battle against the Emperor, using the holocron to bring forth Lord Dromund's spirit, who sacrificed himself to weaken his son and break through his armor. The Outlander was then joined by the spirits of Arcann and Vaylin, who helped fight their father, but the true turning point came upon the realization this was all taking place in the commander's mind, which meant the battlefield could be reshaped to grant them an advantage. Making the Emperor susceptible to the conditioning originally placed on Vaylin, the Outlander proclaimed, "Kneel before the Dragon of Zakuul," which sapped their enemy of his powers. The spirit of Senya Terrell then appeared to land a mighty blow against her former husband, leaving him vulnerable to a final attack by the Alliance commander that at long last defeated and destroyed the Emperor's spirit, releasing a burst of dark side energy that awoke the Outlander in the throne room of Zakuul, where they now had the option to become the new Emperor, after which they made a galaxy-wide announcement, declaring the age of the Eternal Alliance. Yet even after all the Outlander went through to destroy the Emperor, the threat of his continued existence persisted thanks to the survival of his original body. However, the Jedi Kira Carson and Sith Lord Scourge were aware of this, and so tracked down and destroyed his body, ending the chance for his spirit to be reborn. But what they did not realize was that still another contingency was in place, as the body of Tenebrae was covered in markings related to a dark side ritual, which upon its destruction released a plague, infecting and linking the minds of those in proximity, allowing an echo of the Emperor's spirit to live on within their collective consciousness. The first victims of this plague were Scourge and Carson, followed by Satele Shan and her followers who led a rescue mission to save them. Thus, in 3626 BBY, the Alliance commander learned of what occurred and again set off to defeat this last remnant of the enemy's spirit, entering into the mind of the former Jedi Grand Master, where he faced the Emperor in his final form, appearing as Tenebrae, Vitiate, and Valkorion, the three most prominent bodies held throughout his 1,000-year life. Prepared to make his final stand, the Emperor soon learned the commander was not alone, as he was joined by the spirits of Kira Carson, Scourge, Satele Shan, Darth Mar, Mitra Surik, and many other Force users who'd fallen victim to his evil, including the former Jedi and Sith Lord Revan, who helped destroy this last vestige of his being. Having survived for nearly 1,500 years, the Sith Dark Lord Vitiate, also known as the Emperor, was at last defeated, forced to face his own death, which had always been his greatest fear and what motivated everything he did throughout his long life. And while he ultimately failed to live forever, Vitiate was, for a time, worshipped as a god by two massive empires, and came closer than any Sith in history to achieve the dream of immortality, securing a legacy that lasted thousands of years, with future Dark Lords like Darth Plagueis still admiring his accomplishments. A special thanks to all those who contribute to Civilization X, like Captain Marvel, DMB MSC, Pete J. King, Daedry Dragonswit, and Lady J. Booknerd. If you'd like to help the channel, be sure to give a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and click on the links below, or else go to patreon.com/civilizationx, where you can gain early access to videos, vote on future content, and watch the Patreon-only series, Heroes of Lore and Legend.